Good evening, everybody. I'm glad you have decided to sign on and become a part of this first ever Hoosier Legionnaire live webcast. I want to apologize to you for the delay. These things never go off as planned, and this one went off just like that. Didn't go off exactly how we hoped, but we're up and we're running, and we're really excited to be here. Thank you for sticking with us as we work through these problems. My name is Hugh Dagley. I'm the Department Adjutant. What that means is I'm the Administrative Officer for the State Organization of the American Legion. I have a number of responsibilities, and not the least among which are to ensure that we stick to the traditions and guidelines of our forebears. I also am responsible for identifying certain problems and recommending solutions. A third part of what I do has to do with identifying new directions, initiatives, and recommending changes to the leadership of this organization. We are blessed to have good leadership who recognizes the importance of change. They also understand the restraint that is necessary on the rate and the pace of change to make sure that we don't overwhelm our organization. But what we're doing tonight with our first webcast is an example of what I'm talking about when it comes to new initiatives. The webcast is something that we, members of the staff, have looked forward to for a long time. Finally, the pieces are in place. We have the talent among our staff. We have experience and expertise. More importantly, we have the equipment, and we have the will of the Strategic Planning Committee, which has set us in motion. What we hope to accomplish tonight is we hope to familiarize new and prospective members with the programs and accomplishments of the American Legion. We're here to encourage our current members to become more involved in the activities, and we want to open a dialogue, and that's why we're willing to take your questions. I encourage you, as we go through this program for the next 25 or 30 minutes, you write down your questions and send them to us, and before the program's over, we'll try to answer as many of those as we possible. The final thing that we hope to achieve is to prove the value of an alternative to the traditional meeting model that the American Legion has operated under since its founding. And that is a meeting in the post home, face-to-face, with all the ceremony and all the traditions attendant on that meeting. Tonight we're not going to go through our usual and traditional ceremonies. Those would include, of course, a salute to the colors, a pledge of allegiance, a prayer, and a reciting of the preamble to the Constitution of the American Legion. That is one of the most important traditions because we reaffirm ourselves every time we meet to the common bond that we share with veterans of all ages, all wars, and our commitment to the founding principles. Among those principles are, first and foremost, aid and comfort for our comrades. Not only for those that are physically wounded, but those who suffer from the mental ravages of war, which express themselves in a number of different ways. And we're going to talk about those for just a few minutes later on in the webcast. We are very much interested and very active in supporting the families and the children of veterans, not only those who suffered in war, but all of those who fall on hard times or find themselves temporarily unable to provide for their families. And a very important part of what we do is promoting those traditional values, transmitting them to posterity, training young people in the programs of Americanism, training them in educational matter that's no longer presented to them in the public schools. We have very active civic programs, flag education programs. We have an oratorical contest, and we're going to talk about how you could become involved in many of those programs during the course of this webcast. And finally, we encourage, and we are as an organization actively involved as citizens in this democratic republic. That takes many forms. It takes the form of legislative initiatives. It takes the form of monitoring the action of federal agencies that provide assistance to veterans, employment to veterans, and most importantly involves commenting and evaluating national defense, national security proposals, plans, policies that in the judgment of those of us who fought this nation's wars are not in the best interest of a nation defending itself in a hostile world. We're going to focus on the things that new and prospective members might want to know. We're going to focus on the questions that we'd like to answer. There are only a couple of key questions. One of them is, what do we have that you need? And the other question is, what opportunities are there for you to do those things that you're interested in? And we have many programs, many opportunities. And we know from the market research that we've done, the conversations we've had with younger veterans, that the veterans today are no different than the veterans of yesterday. They want to serve, they want to participate, and more importantly, they want to look out for their comrades. If that's true of you, there's a place for you in the American Legion. Finally, I want to prepare you for a brief discussion that Department Commander Larry Lowry will have toward the end of this program. That has to do with changes in the presumptive service-connected illnesses and injuries and diseases for which compensation is available. I don't know them all. My job is not as a service officer. This department has 5 perfectly well qualified, among the best in the nation, service officers who can address a claim having to do with Lou Gehrig's disease, for example, ischemic heart disease, as another example. There are a number of afflictions, conditions that arise as a consequence of military service, and too often the Veterans Administration, the federal government, is not promoting and publicizing those conditions. That's what our service officers do. That's what our American Legion does. We look into this and we make sure that you know. We also have a fairly active presence among social network that I would like to call your attention to. And I would particularly like to call your attention to something we call the Adjutant's Bulletin. It's more bulletin than it is adjutant, but it comes from me. And I try to focus every week on the significant activities that the department has been involved in or will soon be involved in. And so from that most recent Adjutant's Bulletin, which you can find on our website, www.indianalegion.org, you can find information about where we've been and where we're going. Some of the things I'd like to call your attention to is the website, as of June 24th, will be completely redesigned, all based on the input of our members and other users who have said they want it more user-friendly, they want it easier to navigate, they want to find more relevant content, not only for members, but for prospective members. We are going to deliver that when we go live on the 24th. I would like to call your attention to the next webcast, which we have scheduled for June the 9th, 2016. It is the webcast of the election of the new department commander from our department convention. Many, many Legionnaires. July, what did I say? June? Well, June 9th is passed. I understand that. July 9th. Yes, the department convention, the webcast for the election is July the 9th. So watch the website and tune in and see how a department commander is elected and what he might have to say about his year as the outgoing commander goes out. We are preparing for Legion Day 2016, an ambitious public event to be held on the grounds of department headquarters, featuring a 5K run, the groundbreaking for the Indiana Veterans Hall of Fame Memorial on our property, a commemoration for 9/11. We will have VIPs, speakers, music, children's games, free lunch, and really quite a bit more. It also is the launch of our 2017 membership year, and we hope to have representatives from all 11 of our districts on the grounds to orient you and familiarize you with American Legion posts around the department. That's a look at what we've been doing. It's a look at how we go about some of our business. But next, I'd like to take a look at how you could become a part of all this. And to do that, I'd like to introduce you to someone who has made that decision and become a very important part of what we do. Our 2nd District Commander, Ron Hoaks. Well, I'd like to introduce you to Ron Hoaks from Morocco, Indiana, which is up north, if I understand my geography correctly. Ron is a union electrician. He also operates his own business on the side. Most importantly, he finds time to become very active in the American Legion. Ron, could you please tell us a little bit about why you decided, with as busy a life as you have, why you decided to become active and what it means to you?
Well, as a 23-year member, I could probably go back a long way and tell you some things on why I actually become active. But why I'm more active nowadays as I've gotten a little bit older is, well, for one, if you look at my shirt, 22 a day, Veterans Lives Matter, 22 that are committing suicide. And we need to do something about that. We need to do something that as a group and us younger veterans and the ones that are out there need to become a little more involved, because the larger our voice, the more they have to listen to us. And one of the ways we can fix that is how broken the VA is right now, in my opinion. Some people may not say that, but if you listen to the younger people and their dealings with it, they're struggling. They're really struggling with trying to get some help. That's one of the reasons I'm involved. And now that I've gotten a little more time, believe it or not, but you know, like Legion baseball, I got to play Legion baseball. I wanted to make sure Legion baseball back in my small town, we started sponsoring them again, and we have. Boys State, as a Boys Stater, wanted to make sure that was happening on in the post. Continue with the scholarships. That's several things, and there's a couple other things. I mean, I could go several, but another one's how we handle our homeless veterans. We don't do a very good job with that, in my opinion. I think that needs to be addressed more, and that's why some of the reasons I'm involved.
You mentioned when we were talking earlier that you had started a couple of programs for young people at your post. I think it was the youth bowling program. Mm-hmm. Do you find that you're restricted at all in establishing programs for your community that are not necessarily department or national programs?
No, I don't think there's anything restricted at all. And as a staple in our small community, and the Legion always has, even when I was little. I remember washing dishes standing on a 5-gallon bucket in that place as a young man. But we have a bowling alley attached to our Legion, so we're able to do them programs. But not only that, the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, the Little League, the Babe Ruth, when they come to us, and they're not actually looking for a handout, we'll say, hey, let's do a project. And we do that as a community, bring the kids in. It's a non-smoking post, and the families come down there. And I enjoy that. That's what I'm passionate about. I want it to make it a family, which it should be. Shouldn't it be about some stale beer and cigarette smoke, in my opinion. It needs to be more about the community.
Do you find when you're talking to your friends and your associates, the people you do business with, people you work with, people that you served with. Do you believe there's a place for them in the American Legion?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt, I've been able to, just in the people I have met, and just real quick history on how I ended up being 2nd District Commander, there were some things at our post that I needed some knowledge on how to fix. And how I did that was start attending district meetings. So as a young commander at local level, I was able to attend these district meetings and get some knowledge on how to make things better. And because of that, I've helped several veterans, friends included, on getting help and getting some assistance. Because it's always nice to know that guy when that person's in trouble. Hey, let me make a phone call. I'll get right back with you.
As a younger veteran in the organization, you are surrounded, obviously, by older veterans. The majority of our members are Vietnam-era veterans or older. Have you found any resistance at all when you have new ideas, new approaches, new initiatives that you'd like to undertake?
Oh, I don't. There's always that small percentage that's going to say something or act a certain way. But for the most part, no, especially at the department level and leadership level in this organization, I don't. You listen to what I have to say a lot of times. Sometimes you may not like to hear it, but you guys, at least I appreciate you listening.
Well, you're absolutely true. There are times we don't like to hear what you got to say either, but sometimes your wisdom surpasses our own. I don't care how many years we've been doing this. There's always a fresh approach. There's always a new idea. Ron, thank you for taking a few minutes. I know it's been difficult for you to work all day and drive down here and now have to drive home. But thank you so much for coming out. And please help encourage your peers to become involved.
You're welcome.
He's doing cutting.
Well, we're back, and Butch Miller is with us now. Butch is our program director at the department headquarters. Butch is very active in all of the programs that we offer for not only young people, but for the members themselves. In addition to that, he has taken on the responsibility for establishing an assistance program for veterans without dependents, which is a very large loophole in our assistance program. He also handles the more traditional assistance programs. So I'd like to have you, Butch, if you would, talk to us a little bit about the programs, where we stand in this program year, and maybe a little bit about the assistance programs.
All right. First of all, there's about 35 different programs in the American Legion. And obviously, we don't have the time to cover those all tonight. So during these broadcasts, what I'd like to do is I'd like to cover the programs that are out there in the future, about 2, 3, 4 months. That's where most posts would be planning right now, what's coming up rather than what's past. They obviously would critique what they had done, and they'd be looking toward the future. Right now, just last week, we finished our Hoosier Boys State, so that cycle is finished. We're just getting into our American Legion baseball routine for this year. Baseball was, contrary to what a lot of people think, baseball was not the first program that the American Legion undertook. Boy Scouts was actually the first program, but baseball is getting into full swing. We'll have our regional playoffs. If you were watching the broadcast earlier, you saw the upcoming events. They've got the regional tournament scheduled there, and then we'll have our state tournament, and that leads into our national tournament, which will be broadcast on ESPN for the second year this year out of North Carolina. And if you didn't know it, let me be the first to tell you that about 65% of the baseball players in the major leagues at one time or another either played American Legion baseball or were touched by American Legion baseball. So it is a program of great respect and some renown, and we're happy to say that we've had some real successes here in Indiana. But to get a little bit more closer to home, as we would say, the assistance programs that the American Legion offers, and there's a number of them, but I'd like to talk about at least two, and that's at the national level. We have our temporary financial assistance program, which is open to all veterans as long as you serve during a period that is recognized by the American Legion as a membership period. And one of the other qualifications is that you have to be honorably discharged, and you must have children under the age of 18 unless they're in school or there's mitigating circumstances such as being handicapped and whatnot. That is a national program. It provides assistance up to about $2,500 per family. It can help you pay the rent, pay your light bill, your electric bill. There's a few things they won't pay, like phone bills and cable TV, but it's administered through this office, our headquarters, but it's really operated by the local posts and the districts. So if you know of somebody, yourself or somebody else that fits the qualifications, have them call the department headquarters. We will give them a local contact, or if you know of a local Legion post or a district in your community, go down there and just tell them that you're interested in investigating into the TFA program.
Butch, let me stop you right here. Tell me, is it not true that the Department of Indiana has processed more TFA claims than any other department in the country?
It's funny you should bring that up. That's something that one would normally like to brag about. It is a point that you're correct. We have led the nation in the last 3 years. Actually, the last 4 years, we were second one year in processing claims and having claims approved. That's the good news. The bad news is that we've got that many veterans out here that need that kind of assistance. The good news is that, as I said, we can help them if they come to us and give us the opportunity. But to go back to some of the things that Ron said, and I believe the commander will probably touch on it, there's no reason why we should have that many veterans out there that are in need. If we stick together as an organization, we can make sure that not only in Indiana but across the country, veterans get the kind of services, kind of medical provisions and benefits that they so justly deserve. But before we go on, I need to talk about one more program that I'm particularly pleased with and proud of, and that is that at some time in the past, the Legionnaires of Indiana decided to start a program of their own, which was somewhat of a spin-off of the old Knightstown, the Knightstown home in Knightstown, Indiana. And they started what is called the CEWF, or Children's Education Welfare Fund. That is a program much like the TFA program. The only thing is that it's administered and coordinated by the local posts, who can then provide assistance on an almost immediate basis. And by immediate, I'm talking about within hours, if not a day or so, to a veteran. TFA is a little bit slower. Our normal processing time from the time that a veteran comes to us until we can get them some assistance is about 5 to 7 days, and that's sometimes a little slow. But CEWF is there, and thanks to all of the hard-working veterans here and Legionnaires here in Indiana of the past and right up to today, we've got that program to offer to them. So that's two strong programs. Hugh happened to mention that both of those programs are dependent upon having children in the family, which is somewhat of an abyss that we're trying to fill. Again, I'm particularly proud of the Legionnaires here in Hoosier land because of the fact that they have seen this loophole, so to say, and we are in the early stages of trying to build the financial resources it will take to fill that void. There's a lot of Legionnaires, a lot of veterans nowadays that get out of the military and they have trouble transitioning into civilian life or going back to school, whatever they're going to do. And on the other end, we also have the older veterans whose kids have grown and left the home, and now mom and dad are in an empty nest, and sometimes for health reasons and other reasons, things financially usually go wrong, and they need a little help, and that's where that fund could certainly come to pass. So the American Legion is there when you need help, and here in Indiana particularly, there's any number of avenues that you can provide that help. So if they have a problem, if you have a need, contact us. Come on the website, give us a call here at the office, go to your local Legion post.
Well, Butch, I know that you're really involved in the youth programs, and I think what would be good for us at this point is to take a look at some of the things that have happened over the last several weeks, couple of months, the oratorical contest, Bush State. So why don't we do that? Why don't we take a look at the program activities? But before we do?
Yeah, before we do, I want to, for those of you that are out there wondering, if you're a Legionnaire and you want to get involved in a program, it's very easy to get disenchanted sometimes because it costs a lot of money to put a baseball team on the field. And yes, it costs a little money if you want to put a junior shooting sports program together or something like that. But let me show you something that won't cost you a dime, just a little bit of time. That's all it is. It's a program called Children's Education, Flag Education and Etiquette. It's a very simple program. What we do is we take this comic book, and it's a patriotic comic book about our flag. We get it to the school. It's in the fourth graders in the school. Fourth graders. We have them read the book, and then they take a very simple test based on the questions in the book, and then they write an essay. Simple program. Doesn't cost you a dime. These are provided by the department. The tests are provided by the department. But let me tell you where it can go. Where it can go is it can get a child, a fourth grader, $1,000 in cash. Could be used for a scholarship. Could be used by mom and dad to do something else with it. But in either case, it's something that they get for their hard-earned efforts. And for you and the Legionnaire, it doesn't cost you a dime. All you need to do is get into the school, let us know how many of these books you want, how many tests. We'll send them to you. It doesn't cost you a dime.
Thanks, Butch.
You betcha.
Well, we build this webcast as an interactive webcast, and sure enough it is. We have questions that have come from people who are interested in what we do and are interested in what we hear. And I would like to take just a couple of minutes to answer a few of those. One of my favorites is one that I've had several times since we've moved out to Lawrence from downtown. And that question is substantive and to the point. Why are the flags always tattered when they fly above the headquarters? Well, the fact is they're not always tattered, but they are frequently tattered. We are, for some reason, the target of some high winds out here. The flags and banners that we fly are terribly expensive, and we simply do not have a budget for replacing flags as frequently as we would like to replace them. We do replace the American flag whenever it even approaches being not serviceable. The other banners, we will let them fly a little bit longer. We are looking for alternative funding to provide a regular supply of these very large and expensive flags. We haven't discovered that yet, but certainly some generous supporter will step up at some point and say, I'm going to help you replace the flags periodically. That's what we're looking for. A question that comes frequently, and especially since somewhere in the early 90s, I can't remember the date exactly, but at that time the criteria for eligibility in the American Legion, accompanied by a number of changes in the definition of veteran at the federal level and so forth, resulted in a sea change for potential members. The question is, as a National Guard or Army Reserve member, am I eligible for membership in the American Legion? The answer is probably so. Very rarely in today's armed forces environment will we find someone who is not eligible, and that is because any serviceman or servicewoman who is sent to active duty under Title 10 is considered to have served in federal service, and therefore with 1 day's service that person is eligible for membership in the American Legion. It is not as simple as it once was when there was a release from active duty or a discharge characterized and that was all that was required or all that was authorized. Today the question is a little more complicated. I recommend that you see someone at American Legion Post and ask that question, show them your papers and say, am I eligible? And if they're unable to answer the question, we certainly will answer the question at the department headquarters. I think that's enough. I think what I'd like now is to give the last word to Department Commander Larry Lowry. Larry Lowry is not only the current department commander, he is also a longtime veteran service officer and is very familiar with claims processing, the criteria for disability ratings and so forth. So I'm going to ask him to join us here and talk a little bit about veteran service.
Thank you. I'm the commander. It's been an honor for me this year to serve as commander for the Department of the American Legion. Two of the things I really am sincere about is veterans benefits, making sure all the veterans get the benefits that they're due. And being a county veteran service officer, it's part of the best job that I can think anyone could ever have. One of the things that I'd like to talk about for some of the newer veterans is airborne hazards, especially when we talk about the open pits burning that was over there on some of the deployments. For those of you who were deployed for OEF, OIF, OND, OFS, on or after August 2nd, 1990, I'd like to have you check the va.gov website for the burn pit registry, because you could be eligible based upon some health hazards that you involved when you was deployed over there. One of the other newer things in the last few years is the tainted water Camp Lejeune. And that's always been a concern of ours because it was such a long period of time. As long as you resided down there for at least 30 days between August 1st, 1953 and December 31st, 1987, you could be eligible for some benefits, especially if you have some cancer. We definitely want to file a claim for that. You can also search for some of the diseases on the VA website at va.gov and just hit in the search box tainted water Camp Lejeune and it will come up. Also, around the year 2011, they added 3 more diseases to the Agent Orange presumptive list. And those are the ones I really want to hit on because a lot of them didn't really know the 3 new ones that were added. And that was a B-cell leukemia, Parkinson's, and especially ischemic heart disease. And ischemic heart disease, basically all we're talking about is coronary artery disease. So what's more important is if I have a Vietnam veteran that had boots on the ground, that passed away of a heart attack, regardless of when it was, it could have been maybe last year, it could have been 10 or 15 years ago, the spouse is going to be eligible for benefits also because the veteran died of a service-connected disability. So it's very important to know some of these benefits and to keep an eye on the website, and especially our legion.org website. Now, one of the other things that's across the board for everybody is Lou Gehrig's disease, or ALS. This is very important because anybody that had at least 90 days or more of continuous service on any of the branches of service, their military service, is eligible for benefits if they have Lou Gehrig's disease. And if they happen to pass away of Lou Gehrig's disease, that makes a spouse eligible for benefits also. Now, I just wanted to make you aware of some of the newer changes, and hopefully in the future we'll give you a lot more to think about. We have our American Legion service officers, and they're here to help you file claims and answer questions. All you have to do is check our website. It's been a pleasure to have you in here tonight, and I want to remind you again, our next meeting is going to be July 26th at 7 o'clock, and I hope you tune in again then. So thank you very much for being with us tonight, and may God bless you all.